Another question for you is when you do develop a concept,
Yes.
how do you look at, you might personally think or like doing some kind of a style or concept of restaurant, or do you look at what the market really needs or the demand? How does that work for
We
you?
never look at the market.
You never look, right?
Never.
So that's interesting because like if you ask any kind of big research firm or large company, they're going to say, "Oh, we're going to start with market research first and trying to understand what the
these
consumer
people,
needs," right?
they'll never understand the business. This business is it's really simple. It's sharing. So let's say you're from Azerbaijan. I've never been to Azerbaijan. I don't know anything about the food, and I come to your house and you give me this drink and you give me this food and you say I eat it in this order and then we have this ritual and we do a dance and I'll be like, wow, Azerbaijani food's amazing.
Right.
But I wouldn't know until you showed that to me and until you shared it with me.
Have you ever met the late John Morford?
Yes, of course. I've
Used to serve him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which restaurant?
I was a chef of a restaurant called La Bodega in Hong Kong.
Right. You used to love going there,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Right. So this
amazing architect.
Amazing architect, interior designer. I mean, he did Pakat, as you know, Pakat Tokyo
Yes.
is one of his famed, but he did many other ones. And he, I had the chance to work with him on a project, and I was for a year literally kind of his assistant, going around. And then he told me, he said, Christophe, anyway, frankly, the guests, they just don't know what they don't know. And they don't know what they want. So you have to tell them
I completely agree with
what they're going to experience, right?
Not all of them. I mean, but look, in the restaurant business, you don't need everyone to like it. You just need 100 people or 200 people a day or 50, depending on your restaurant model.
The other thing today is I hear about all the time about kind of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
The storytelling of
Yes.
the restaurant, the concept, or guest experiences, and the importance versus the food.
Yes.
What are your views on this? What is the importance of the food, the product, that concept versus the storytelling and the guest experience?
For me, and this is my story, that's the beginning of the story. So I start my storytelling. It generally begins with the food offering, and then it radiates out from there. I mean, it could start from a totally different angle. It could start from hospitality. It could come from the bar. It could come from a culture. But for me, because of my background, it starts with. And for me, the storytelling is not to tell some made-up story. It's so that we have a North Star, we have a map.
Right.
Because if this is our story, and we don't want to deviate over here, we want to revert back to the story, and it's a story that we all know, we've all shared, and the stories can be passed down, they can be told to other people, and they can be retold.
Right. We spoke about you're from Canada and you got all these ethnicities, this culinary kind of cultures.
Yes.
But I'm always blown away how you're able to do all these kind of authentic kind of cuisines. How do you do that?
Well, that's what makes this job exciting. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of traveling, a lot of dining, and then sort of synthesizing it and expressing it in your own way.
You do a lot of research, right? I mean, what's the process of research? What does that mean? Like you go online, you do books?
Look, I've been reading books about this for decades, and then whenever I have the time and money, I go in and travel. Within your own city, you could usually experience a lot of these different things. Look, we're in Bangkok, right? But if I want to explore Myanmar cuisine,
right,
there's a lot of places where I can learn about Myanmar cuisine here, right? And I'm pretty close to Burma or Myanmar, so this is a good starting point, and it's also not an expensive process.
Yeah, but you go deep.
Yes.
I mean that's what I was trying to get at. And I remember you going to Italy for like a week or 10 days and like eating like
10 meals a day, whatever. Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy, right?
People think it's fun, but not everyone's got the constitution for this kind of thing.
Let's move a little bit about leadership under pressure.
Yes.
I mean, you run a business. Do you have sleepless nights?
Sometimes I wake up and I think about things a bit, but actually I did last night for a project. But I'm fortunate where I really thrive in chaos. It's actually the stable times where
that's
I struggle
a skill.
A bit. Yes.
That's definitely a big skill, right? Not easy. If I ask your team, your style of management, are you more of are you more kind of light kind of leader, or you're a feared leader?
Both.
Both?
Yes.
So creating tension,
I'm no, no.
or
I'm.
how do you do that?
I don't know why I'm feared. I am feared, but I'm very light. I'm very light. I like. Look, the type of restaurants that I would like to have. I'm actually not guest focused. I'm team or staff focused.
Your leadership, right?
Yes, so I don't. So sometimes people come in restaurants that I operate and say, "Oh, this guy doesn't say hi." I'm like, because that's not what I do. I go and say hi to the staff or the team, and I want them to feel light. I want them to be like. It doesn't mean we're not taking things seriously. It doesn't mean we don't have high standards, but I want. They spend all day in the restaurant. I want them to be reasonably happy there, and then that happiness should radiate to the guests.
So that's really your concept, actually, to really take care and nurture your team, so then they can in turn, because they're there all the time.
Exactly.
You're not, right?
Yes.
And that's your way of.
And I think maybe that fear is that trust will be broken.
Right. You have someone that doesn't work, right? That like maybe they cannot cook the way you
Yes.
want or lead the way you want. How do you deal with this?
You try to give them warnings, and you try to make it work, and sometimes it doesn't. And I wish, one of my wishes is that I had, in many cases, I just done this earlier, because normally when you go and you just fire someone, they're usually better off too, and you're better off, and they're better off, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing to part ways with people. Sometimes people are just in the wrong place.
Do you think that when in terms of leadership, right, or the management or someone you're looking, do you think it's the personality of the person is more important, or their kind of systems that they may know and they may have? What do you think is the most important to run a successful restaurant?
Well, I think a leader is someone you want to follow.
Right.
So it's really that simple.
You're really looking for
yeah.
someone who's
So it's
got
not
leadership,
yeah.
right? Personality.
It's not necessarily a right or wrong leader. Do people want to follow this person, or are these the right people, right?
You have a young daughter, and she's in the hospitality world. But now today, do you encourage the young generation to join this
I would,
world?
like a lot of people in this business in the past have tried to dissuade their children and try to put them into other industries. And I've neither tried to encourage or dissuade my daughter. But I think there's way more opportunities for people now. The things that people can do now. When I was starting out, I couldn't even dream of those. Like, I've surpassed my dreams, but there's still way further for a lot of people to go.
It's interesting because I hear a lot the new generation is not the same as the old generation kind of
Great.
today.
They shouldn't be.
And I think they're better.
Yeah.
Personally,
They're.
I think the new. I mean, I love mentoring. I love
Yes.
helping young generations, and I think today they're so much sharper, so much more kind of in tune, and with technology and exposure, because exposure is so important, right?
And they should be better too, because the foundation that they're starting with is different from the foundation or the start line that we began with.
How do you find, in terms of creativity, if you're under pressure, do you think
Yes.
it's possible to?
I think it creates creativity.
Right.
If
I
everything,
fi-
if everything was relaxed and you
Right.
could do anything you want whenever you wanted, that's not
I
where
find
creativity comes
find that I find that when you have kind of either a stop where you gotta present something, or with pressure you can raise up and create better things. Have you seen kind of new ideas that came through to you doing that?
Of course, be under pressure, because you have to make a decision, right? And people obsess in this business. People obsess over the tiniest things, right? But there's really, like, most decisions are not that important, and most of them can be reversed or changed. There's only some decisions that are highly important.
It's interesting because you have the way you can, you've worked with Michelin. You have Michelin star restaurants. You have kind of casual restaurants. You have entry level kind of street food restaurants,
Yes.
right? Today, how do you see the Michelin stars? Do you see it as an asset, or do you see it as a distraction?
Okay, well, quite honestly, for me, was something that I had never aspired to or had much interest, because I don't come from a Michelin star culture.
Right.
And in Europe, I think it has certain standards, and I believe for the most part, I've had the pleasure of dining in many Michelin star restaurants, and I believe that most of them conform to those standards. But that said, there's a lot of my favorite restaurants are not Michelin star restaurants and not in the guidebooks. There's certain people that need a certain type of validation, and they say, "Show me what you eat, I'll tell you who you are." And so some people need that validation. I've had the chance to enjoy so many great foods that I don't really need a guide to validate my dining choices. But that said, it is relevant to a lot of people to guide them through that.
This new generation of chefs with social media. What are your views on this?
Well, I think it's sort of something they have to deal with, and some people will thrive with it. It's fairly new. There's a lot of unknowns. I think the downside is a lot of people want to be seen as doing things or being things rather than actually being things or doing things.
Yeah, doing is still. I mean, the skill of our profession, or is the skill is of doing. Right?
Of doing, yeah, and doing many times over perhaps many decades.
You've done what type of Asian food concepts of restaurants have you opened?
Cantonese, Sichuan, Thai, Vietnamese, South Asian, such as Sri Lankan, Indian, Pakistani.
So, what are the
Japanese,
yeah, sushi, and then you did
teppanyaki, izakaya. Yeah.
So, where do you see now Asian kind of cuisine going, or what are the kind of trends that you might feel the next kind of 5 years going towards, or type of cuisine?
You used to work with Louis Vuitton, right?
Right.
So those guys will make a bag,
right,
and then 10 years later the bag will come out again,
right,
because there's a new generation that hasn't experienced that bag, and they're like, "Wow, this is brand new,"
right.
And but it's a classic. But for a while there'll be a focus on it, and then the focus will drift somewhere else, and then the focus will come back. So I think what's really exciting is there's new generations of consumers that haven't experienced things. I've never invented anything, concept or cuisine wise. I've just reintroduced it to people that haven't experienced it before.
Right, in a different way.
Yes, in a way that's relevant to them.
Right. I remember how passionate you were. We went to just before you just opened Lavash. It was during the trial runs, I think, at the little Lavash in TST.
Oh yes,
in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And then you took me in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And you were so proud to show me the quality of ribeye, right?
Yes.
The ribeye steak, and then the French fries, and that was really interesting to see the passion and the detail that you have and you think about. And I see you working like morning to night, but where do you get that work-life balance? I mean, you need at one point. So how do you manage that?
I'm fortunate. I've had my own businesses for a long time, so I've been able to integrate my work and my life. I don't see them as separate. I've been able to take my daughter to work with me, to pick her up from school, watch her do her homework, have dinner with her, then drop her off at home, then go back to the late night rounds of the restaurants and whatnot. So as an entrepreneur, I think sometimes you work hard, but there doesn't have to be a clear separation between your life and your business. Like there's a seafood restaurant I like dining at in Bangkok, and when I go there, the grandma's there with the hair in the curlers, the grandfather's there with his shirt off, the kids are running around, one of them is doing homework, and it's their business, but it's their life.
Now you've opened all these. How many restaurants you've opened? Like
over 100.
Over 100, right? So now what's next? What are you looking at?
It's more about the people in the restaurants. Like just working with great people and enjoying those relationships with them.
Like looking at and developing new concepts, or
there's no new concepts.
Or like new experiences,
yeah.
Or how do you work it?
New experiences, variations on a theme, and just working with great people.
You're intense. How do you get that? Where do you get that intensity? Where do you get? Because people that are intense do things just so well. Where does that come from?
I'm not sure where it comes from, but it's something that definitely needs outlets. Like we were talking about passion earlier, right? And again, passion can be really bad. Like you had brought up me being very defensive about something, and it comes from the same place.
Right.
So you need to have positive outlets for it.
By the way, I'm very sensitive and very defensive, more than anyone else. Just to share that with you. But I want to talk about one mentor or someone that you really respect.
Yes.
Joseph Budi.
Yes.
And I'd love you to
he's
share the best.
Yeah, he's the
I
best.
think he's the best. I'd love you to share a little bit why you think he's. I mean, coming from you, it almost makes me want to cry. Why do you think is the best?
Well, in this business, there's a lot of stakeholders. Yeah, I'm not talking about necessarily hotel or restaurants, just the business that we're in and in hospitality. And not everyone's able to sort of walk that line between, he can deal with the guests, he can deal with the owners, he can deal with the billionaires, he can deal with dishwashers, he can deal with cooks. And he's able to sort of like seamlessly walk between all these different worlds, which I think good restaurateurs do. He wasn't a restaurateur, he was an executive chef, but he also created an amazing atelier of executive chefs. So part of what I do is I wouldn't define myself as an executive chef, but that's part of what I do. And without having him as a mentor, I wouldn't be able to do that.
But it's interesting because I find you have a lot of things in common between you and Chef Budi. And one of the things is like every month you would send me a message saying, Christophe, can we help this guy? And sometimes they don't work with you.
Yes.
Maybe he's
even
very talented. I met him, or you should help
Yes.
him, meet him, please,
Yes.
whatever, right? Every month I would get a message from you.
Yes.
I get another message from Chef Budi too, still today, about, I met this gentleman, he's wants, and I think that's really kind of at heart, kind of mentoring, kind of the profession.
I think that's what mentors do. Yeah, I remember when I was very young and I first crossed paths with Chef Boudet. He was like a god,
Right.
but he always had time for me.
Right.
If I called, if I came by, he'd always buy me lunch or do this or accommodate me. And I think those are the things that change people's lives, right?
Now I want to ask you, and I want you to share, and I want you to be honest here. What is the difference between running a restaurant in a hotel scenario and in a freestanding scenario?
A restaurant in a hotel needs to serve the needs of the hotel. It's that simple. And then a freestanding entity just needs to serve its own purpose. And the thing is, in hotels, there's an incredible amount of downside risk.
Right.
So hotels are inherently risk averse, and good restaurants inherently need to take risks. Because if you open a hotel and I have a restaurant in it, and you have this amazing image and the perception of the hotel, almost anything I can do can diminish that. But in a restaurant, I need to take risks in order to get any attention.
What other kind of people in the industry or that you look up, could be in art or could be in industry, anyone that you really look up to?
Steven Starr, I think, is pretty amazing. Right. I look at a lot of chefs, I look at a lot of restaurateurs, and there's a lot of amazing people doing work all over the world. And most of the best ones haven't even received any recognition yet.
Right. Now you chose you've got a restaurant in Hong Kong now.
Yes.
You just open a restaurant. You're going to open a restaurant in Bangkok now.
Yes.
Why Thailand?
It's an amazing intersection between being a place that everyone wants to be, everyone wants to come visit here, and you're also in an amazing culture that's able to do anything, and you can create any ingredient here. We can open a restaurant here without importing anything, even the alcohol, the grains, the proteins, the vegetables. It's a culture that has ingrained natural hospitality. There's great cooks here. And I think that it's really become, I have strange ways of looking at things, but I've looked at Hong Kong as sort of a gladiator arena for restaurateurs. Right. And I've proven myself in that arena. And I think this is an exciting new arena to play in.
To experience. Yeah. I know it's Chris's secret or philosophy, but what are the key ingredients to make a restaurant successful?
Okay, the food has to be fairly good. There needs to be a reasonable level of hospitality, location, decor, and at the end of it, how do you feel? How have people felt?
About pricing, how do you see pricing in a restaurant? How important is that, do you think? Or
depends what type of restaurant you're operating. When with those things that I've just listed. Right. If you're just going for somewhere for great food and nothing else, then the pricing could be here. Each of these adds a different layer to the pricing, right? Because they all have costs associated with them.
Do you have a restaurant like today? If you could have a dream restaurant you'd love to open, forget the budgets, forget the location. Is there one dream restaurant you'd love to do?
There is one. It's called La Huela. It's in Uruguay. It's just a place on a beach. It's a shack. where they grill things and people come from all over the world to eat there. That would be my dream restaurant.
That would be the dream restaurant. You've invested so much in personal life also. What kind of cost to your personal life to get successful like you are today?
A huge cost, huge costs. Mental health, spiritual health, time from family, but also huge benefits.
I see your daughter has a huge respect for you. I guess you've done something right. So what was your any advice you can give to young parents?
I think always including her in my life and being very honest with her and speaking to her as an adult since she was a child.
So that was your way of doing it, and she's incredible.
Thank you.
And so successful, and it's beautiful to see.
As are your children.
Thank you, sir. 25 years old, Chris.
Yes.
You're talking to him now.
Well,
what would you tell him?
The thing is, I couldn't. So so your son was asking me something similar. What would you say to yourself at this age? And my problem was, I was so stupid. I couldn't even listen to anyone else. I wouldn't be able to take on any advice or listen to anyone. These younger people, the fact that they're just open and receptive. I had all these people like we always work with someone like Stefan Morath, right?
Yes.
And I could have learned so much from someone like him or Sugi, but I was just so closed off to learning. My ego was so big. Just the fact that people could listen, that's enough, right?
So when you talked about your ego was so big. I mean, when did you realize this?
In hindsight, I probably had a lot of potential mentors, but I just wasn't open enough or trusting enough to understand the process.
I want you to talk to us a little bit the story of. I think it's a beautiful story. You did an MBA.
Yes.
And I wanted to do an MBA, but I didn't feel I had the intellect to do it. But you just went in there and you did it in one of the hardest one in Hong Kong. Which university again?
HKU.
HKU.
Yes.
The Hong Kong University, which is very high level MBA. So how did you get there? Tell us the story.
I'm going to sound really stupid when I say it, but my first businesses were not working very well, and I thought, okay, I'm a pretty good cook, pretty good chef, so there must be a little bit more to this. Maybe I need to learn more about business. So I said to someone, I want to go to a business school, and he said, okay, a couple blocks from you is this HKU place, go and apply there. So I went and applied for the MBA, and I got in. And at the opening party, the dean said to me, he's like, a little background, I didn't go to high school, so I didn't have a high school diploma, and MBA is postgraduate, so most people have been to university first as well, so I hadn't been to high school or university. And he said, I know you didn't have the academic qualifications, but I've been to your restaurant, I've seen you in action, and I thought you'd be a good addition to the class. So I went to the class, and I was probably the worst student. The things we were talking about with ego, a lot of it I learned there because there's people, leadership's all about context. So, in this conversation, I could be a leader of restaurants, you could be a leader of a hotel. The guy behind us could be a leader of taking film and audio because I don't know how to do that. So you work in a lot of teams in an MBA. You're forced to work with teams again and again, and then you carry each other's weights. And you present. So I was fascinated, and I learned a lot through the program.
And you've used a lot of the learnings, right, in your business later. I think you kind of changed after that.
I was very lucky. I was very lucky that I was able to, because even a lot of people in big corporate situations, they work in a small area, but I was able to use a lot of what I learned, whether it was legal, whether it was accounting, finances, marketing, and those are all topics that you learn in MBA. You learn what you don't know, and you also realize that you don't know it, but you learn what you don't know so you can engage people that know.
When you did that, you went there and then you then opened a new business, a new restaurant, or how did it work?
So I was a partner in one company, and it wasn't going the way I wanted to, and then I started a new company in partnership with my still great friend today, Asim Hussein, and then we started Black Sheep together.
Right. What a success! Black Sheep. First of all, the name, where does it come from?
So I have to credit my partner with coming up with the name because he'd always felt like a black sheep, and
right.
I'm probably a black sheep too, and it was just as outsiders.
Right. I think at pretty much every restaurant you've opened, is a success in its own way. And I mean, what's the recipe?
The recipe is again looking after people, and then for me that starts with looking after the staff. Of course, we look after guests too, but staff are too numerous. Guests are too numerous. Having a good product, having genuine hospitality, where we really do care. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So really caring for. I mean, I can see you're like caring for people and kind of helping them to then go on with their careers, right? You get a kick out of this.
I love it. Like we were talking about someone that I used to employ before, that you've employed, and
right.
I was telling someone about where he's gone on his path, and I have a genuine happiness to see where he's gone, right? And that's, I think that's a good marker of our success if we're creating more successful people.
I want to ask you, like, where do you see yourself, like in 5 years, 10 years? Like what you creating now with your new restaurants in Hong Kong and now in Bangkok. What are you aspiring to create?
This is a good question, and one I've been asking myself a lot. I want to create more restaurateurs. I've been lucky to be on this restaurateur journey, and I've had a lot of successes. There's been a lot of failures as well, but I want to create more restaurateurs.
So, like, you want your ambition is to create new generation of successful restaurateurs. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, because restaurateur is something no one talks about.
Right.
People talk about chefs now, people talk about mixologists, talk about business people, but there's no like restaurateur school you can go to. Right.
Or restaurant. How about we do that?
All right, let's do it.
Let's do that. We're gonna help to create kind of a structure to help successful restaurateurs for the future.
No, because
it's amazing.
It's a real thing. Because, okay, let's say you're a great chef, you're an amazing chef, right? And you want to open a restaurant, but this is your first time doing a shareholding agreement. This is your first time negotiating a lease. This is your first time finding a location. This is your first time dealing with a marketing agency. This is your first time doing that. Right. And some of those mistakes are serious mistakes that you can't recover from, right?
That's it. I mean, you could never have spoken like this 20 years ago when you were chef de cuisine.
Because I hadn't made those mistakes yet.
Right. I mean, and actually, I couldn't speak like you speak because I've never done what you've done. And I'm a hotel kind of executive running restaurants and hotels, which is a very different, business model than this entrepreneurship, right? And I think, I love your kind of mission of helping future restaurateurs. And this is something beautiful.
There's so many of them out there.
So many talented chefs.
Yes.
Any great places in Bangkok you'd like to go?
It's honestly, it's just too numerous. That's why, you said, why are you here? I find the city incredibly inspiring.
Right.
There's so many great hospitality people. There's so many great cooks. There's so many. The intersection of everything is coming together here.
Any advice for anyone in the hospitality world today on how to, be more passionate about like taking care of their business or taking care of their teams? Any advice you want to share with us?
Take care of yourself. The thing is, in hospitality, it's a giving business, and a mistake I think a lot of people make is they don't reinvest back in themselves. However you find it, whether it's through taking a little bit of time off, through travel, through eating out, through studying, through reading, because you only have so much to give. Constantly increase your bandwidth for being able to give.
Right. Giving time to yourself.
Invest in yourself.
To be able to give back.
Exactly.
Beautiful.